Unexplained Horrors, 7 Sinister Attempts to Breach My Haunted Home. Terrifying tales revealed. Sarah felt a shiver creep down her spine as she stood outside the old house at the edge of Maplewood, the peeling paint and sagging porch warning her this wasn't just any move. With its whispering trees and dark night, it felt alive, watching, waiting. As her 6-year-old daughter, Lily, clutched her new stuffed unicorn and twirled with an innocent joy, Sarah suppressed her dread. What kind of fresh start lay hidden in those walls? At first, it was the small things. A flickering light that died just as she entered the room, a thud echoing from the basement that made her mind race with dread. Just the house settling, she whispered to herself, trying to banish the growing sense of unease. But when Lily mentioned her new friend Rachel who lived in the walls, her heart plummeted. A child's innocent imagination? Or a warning? Days turned into a cloud of tension, where the mundane took on a sinister edge. The friendly neighborhood smiles felt stretched, as if painted on tight faces. Conversations dropped to whispers when she approached, eyes darting away too quickly. Each encounter chipped away at the once comforting facade of Maplewood. Panic gripped her thoughts, darkness lurking in corners where laughter once echoed. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The stormy night struck like a bell tolling, plunging the neighborhood into darkness. Shadows danced at the edges of her vision, disembodied shapes that twisted her stomach. Lily was wide-eyed, speaking animatedly to Rachel, her invisible friend, as if their conversation was the most natural thing in the world. "She's going to help us." Lily giggled, pointing to the far corner of the living room. Panic surged inside Sarah like an uncontainable tide. She felt eyes on her, accusations swimming in the air, shadows gathering closer. Her hand shook as she reached for her phone, the chilling remnants of articles about children who vanished in the area gnawing at her. Desperation clawed at her throat. Neighbors congregated outside their homes, candlelight flickering like warnings, their hushed tones slipping through her door as if to taunt her. Did they know? Were they waiting for something? When the missed call from the police appeared on her screen, it felt like the earth had cracked beneath her. The voice on the other end was muffled, static swallowing the comforting syllables, each word disintegrating into hollow air. She fought to breathe, staring at the paper clippings stuck awkwardly to the fridge. News articles about children disappearing in the dark shadows of Maplewood. The walls felt tighter, closing in on her sanity. Could she afford to trust her own instincts? All Sarah wanted was to keep Lily safe, but with Rachel growing bolder, brushing against the edges of her daughter's bright imagination, she feared what lay hidden in this home was far more disturbing than she had ever anticipated. As the past danced on the air, weaving a tapestry of dread, Sarah knew the final thread was about to unravel. What awaited them beneath the wallpaper of this seemingly quaint suburb? And as the shadows deepened around her, could she shield Lily from the dark secrets of Maplewood, or was it too late? The air felt thick, almost suffocating. Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was crawling around in the corners just beyond her sight, hiding from her and watching at the same time. The flickering single bulb above swayed slightly, casting eerie shadows that writhed like captured spirits. Each time she glanced into the darkness, she half expected to see more than just emptiness, perhaps a figure leaning into the light, watching her with hollow eyes. "Let us play a game, Mommy," Lily chirped, her innocence piercing through Sarah's rising dread. "Can Rachel come out to play too?" Lily's eyes sparkled as she clutched her unicorn, the fabric worn from endless hugs. The mention of Rachel twisted a knot in Sarah's gut, an unholy thrill that chilled her blood. "No, sweetie, let us read a story instead." She forced a smile, trying to redirect her daughter's fervor. Her eyes flickered to the basement door, which stood ajar, the darkness beyond offering an unsettling invitation. Once again, the memory of the articles crept closer, their headlines screaming of vanished children, creating a cacophony in her mind. The wind howled outside, sending a shudder through the house. The walls creaked, their noises resonating like a whispered warning. "It's only the storm," she told herself, but her gut told her it was more than that.
Shadows shifted, lengthening and shortening, as if playing a twisted game.
"Mommy, Rachel is hiding now," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She says she wants to be found but can't let the others take her."
What did that even mean? The panic surged again, bubbling up in the back of Sarah's throat.
She shook her head, trying to dispel the creeping thoughts. "It's just your imagination, honey," she reassured, though her lips trembled. The sense of unease enveloped her, a shroud that suffocated any sense of safety. Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from the kitchen. Sarah's heart raced as she jumped to her feet, her daughter behind her, wide-eyed and trembling.
"Rachel!"
Lily squealed, her excitement unhinged in the chaotic moment. The door swung open, the darkness beyond inviting her in like a perverse friend.
"Stay here!" Sarah commanded, though her voice quaked.
She approached the kitchen slowly, her breath coming faster, trepidation pulsating through her veins.
A broom lay sprawled on the floor, splintered, as if thrown.
There were strange markings scratched into the wooden surface, symbols she did not understand.
"Rachel did this!" Lily exclaimed, bouncing beside Sarah. The innocent accusation felt like a weight pressing down on her lungs. "She says it's a secret."
Dread pooled in Sarah's stomach. None of this was right. None of it felt safe. The candles in the living room flickered and died, plunging everything into a dark silence, save for the storm still raging outside.
"Mommy!"
Lily tugged at her sleeve.
"Can we find Rachel?"
Before Sarah could respond, a guttural whisper hissed from the shadows behind the doorway, a voice wrapped in malice.
"Find me if you dare." The hair on Sarah's arms stood straight.
Exhaustion clashed with terror, painting her thoughts with panic. Every mother's instinct screamed at her to flee. But fleeing meant leaving Lily to that creature, whatever it was. Just then, as if sensing her turmoil, Lily walked past her with a brave resolve, inching toward the darkness with an unwavering determination, muttering Rachel's name like a mantra.
Sarah's heart dropped, fear swallowing her breath. "Lily! No!"
The scream shot from her throat as she lunged forward, but her daughter didn't stop. Instead, Lily laughed, a high-pitched sound echoing through the house, a sound that twisted like a knife, slicing through Sarah's resolve. "Rachel wants to show me something," and as Lily stepped into the dark void, the shadows swallowed her whole. Sarah's scream clawed at her throat, and her mind raced with panic, losing itself in the impending horror of what was to come.
Could she reach her daughter before it was too late? What would the house reveal next?
Sarah's world tilted as she sprinted toward the abyss where her daughter had disappeared. The dark hallway stretched endlessly, each step pulling her deeper into a silence so thick it buzzed in her ears.
"Lily!"
she cried, her voice fractured with desperation. The air felt electric, crackling with the weight of unspoken threats. She fumbled for the light switch, but her fingers trembled, and nothing happened. The flicker of the overhead bulb now felt like a distant memory, a cruel joke played by the shadows. A flash of movement caught her eye, but when she turned, nothing was there, only the oppressive quiet wrapping around her.
"Mommy! Help!" Lily's voice sliced through the darkness. It echoed, retreating into the depths. "Rachel's waiting."
Fear anchored her feet for a moment, each heartbeat amplifying the terror clawing at her sanity.
"Lily, stay where you are,"
she shouted, but her words felt hollow, swallowed by the unsettling void that held its breath, waiting for her to make the next move. But with a fierce resolve, Sarah plunged into the basement door, the wood creaking ominously as she crossed the threshold. The space was cooler, the musty smell curling around her lungs like damp fingers. She could barely make out the shapes of forgotten furniture veiled in shadows, a broken chair, a pile of old boxes, and to her horror a child's drawing pinned to the wall. The crayon colors faded and smeared. It depicted a happy scene at first glance, Lily, radiant and carefree, holding hands with a girl, but the deeper Sarah looked, the more twisted it seemed. The second child was drawn with wild eyes and a grin far too wide, a mouth like a gash against the page. The thick lines of the drawing descended into deep black that seemed to pulsate, throbbing with a life of its own.
"Lily!"
Sarah shouted again, creeping forward, unsure if her daughter was a few steps away or lost in an unfathomable dimension. The basement darkened, shadows stretching and curling like snakes, and the very walls seemed to pulse with a rhythm of their own. Then she saw a pale hand, delicate and small, emerging from behind a box.
"Mommy!"
Lily's voice erupted joyfully, but it was laced with something sinister. The innocent tone turned dark as she added, "I found Rachel." Her daughter's hand was gripping a piece of pale fabric, a ragged dress the color of death, hanging from an unseen figure obscured in the gloom. The laughter bubbled up again, ringing harsh in the stale air. "She told me to follow her." "Isn't she pretty?" With a surge of terror, Sarah recognized the dread lurking behind her daughter's eyes, the emptiness hidden beneath that guileless facade. "Lily, come back!" she cried, reaching out desperately as the figure shuffled closer. The room chilled around her, as if the very essence of fear had come alive. The silhouette shifted, revealing hollow cheeks and sunken eyes, a grotesque version of sweet Rachel. "Come, play forever," it whispered, voice like broken glass. Everything within Sarah screamed to protect her daughter, to pull Lily away from that nightmare. But her feet felt bound to the floor, terror weaving through her muscles like a spider's silk, wrapping her tighter with every second. "Lily," she shrieked, but the word barely escaped her lips before darkness enveloped them both in a suffocating embrace. A shrill laugh echoed through the basement, intertwining with the rhythmic thudding of Sarah's heart, drowning out the desperate call of survival. And then, silenced in the icy stillness, an unsettling rumble rose like the storm outside, a voice soft but menacing whispering her name, "Sarah, it's not over yet." In that moment of despair, Sarah felt the weight of the shadows pressing against her, drawing her deeper into the depths of the unknown. How could she battle an enemy woven into the fabric of her home? The house had secrets. But what horrors waited to be uncovered? Sarah blinked, the blackness around her swirling as if it had substance. For a heartbeat, she felt weightless, adrift in the stillness. Then the chill bit harder, sinking deeper into her bones. The house felt alive, its breath a ghostly whisper. "Mommy?" Lily's voice trembled, uncertainty cracking the joy that had been there mere moments before. The warmth Sarah felt for her daughter ignited a furious desperation. Had she pulled Lily into this nightmare? Could she ever pull her back? Something rustled in the darkness, a scraping sound that sent Sarah's heart into a panicked sprint. The figure lurked just beyond the reach of her vision, taunting her, drawing closer with every second. "It's just a game, Sarah. You can't hide from what's already here," it hissed, a sound so chilling it scraped against her sanity. "Lily!" Panic surged, a wild burst of adrenaline. She lunged toward the voice, each step a prayer, each cry a plea. The shadows thickened, swallowing the space between them. The grotesque figure rotated its head, its dead eyes gleaming as it readied to speak once more. "Rachel wants to play, Mommy." The voice warped and twisted, becoming a symphony of childlike giggles and eerie whispers swirling around her, pulling her deeper into the nightmare. "Don't you want to meet her?" Choking back terror, Sarah clenched her fists. "No. We need to leave." The darkness pressed in like a wall, suffocating her spirit. She could hear Lily's breath quickening, the sound filled with quiet fright. It sparked a fire in Sarah, igniting a resolve that cut through the fog of despair. Suddenly, the dim light flickered to life, revealing a faint sliver of the basement. Her surroundings were bathed in a sickly yellowish hue. Boxes spilled onto the floor, old dust dancing in the air as if caught in a cursed breeze. The drawing behind her pulsed with dark energy, swallowing the childlike colors, the grotesque face now staring directly at her. "Join us," the figure said, inching forward, an unnatural fluidity in its movements, as if it were more shadow than flesh. The dress Lily clutched fluttered gently, a whisper of death, as if it craved to escape into the pulse of the night. "Stay back!" Sarah screamed, every ounce of maternal instinct flaring to life. She swung her arm, knocking over a box, which toppled noisily, scattering its contents, the once forgotten toys now alive with chaos. The sound shattered the heavy air, a cacophony of memories that sent haunting echoes through the darkness. "Mommy, don't!" Lily cried. Fear rippled through the room, churning the oppressive dread. The laughter grew darker, becoming a choir of screams that rattled the very foundation of the house. In that moment, Sarah saw the truth behind the illusion, the emptiness behind the eyes of the figure, and her daughter slipping toward its grasp. It was a sight that chilled her soul. Rachel was not a playmate. She was a wraith, a harbinger of doom. "Lily!" Her legs propelled her forward as she reached desperately for her daughter. The coldness began to seep into her resolve.
The basement trembled, walls contracting as if the house itself was closing in. "Come play forever." The hissing voice wrapped around Sarah like chains. It seemed to laugh at her defiance, mocking her desperation. With a final, frantic effort, Sarah dove forward. Time slowed as she reached for Lily's small hand. Just as her fingers grazed her daughter's skin, darkness surged, pulling her into its depths, devouring her screams, and then there was nothing. As the chilling silence settled heavily in the basement once more, the shadows began to shift. The walls whispered. The air hummed with anticipation, and a new voice emerged. It was high-pitched, childlike, with a deadly gleam. "Welcome to our forever, Mommy." In that empty space, a dreadful promise loomed. What had she awakened? What would she have to do to get her daughter back? The darkness clung to Sarah, seeping into her mind, twisting her thoughts as she struggled to breathe. In the void, she felt the presence shift. It loomed closer, a palpable weight pressing down upon her chest. Dread curled in her stomach like a serpent ready to strike. "Sarah," the voice slithered through her, smooth and silk-like, dripping with malice. "Don't you want to see your little girl?" Her heart raced. "Lily! Lily!" Sarah screamed, the sound echoing back to her, taunting her. The darkness pulsed, vibrating with her fear. Images flickered in her mind. Lily laughing, playing in the sun. She clung to those memories, grounding herself against the encroaching terror. Enough games. A gust swept through the basement, carrying whispers from the shadows, chilling her skin. The walls began to shimmer, like glass breaking under pressure. She could almost see fingers reaching from the surface, curling and uncurling, beckoning to be touched. With every ounce of resolve she could muster, Sarah pushed against the gripping void. "If you want her, you'll have to go through me." A deep, throaty laugh answered her, echoing painfully in her ears. "Oh, we will, but you first, dear Mommy. You're the only one who can bring her here, after all." In that moment, Sarah's vision sharpened, and she saw them shadows blending into the dark corners of the room, half-formed figures pulsating with an energy that both thrilled and terrified her. She realized that these were the beings that feasted off despair, spirits tethered to the echoes of lost souls, waiting for someone to take the plunge into the abyss with them. "Bring her to me!" Sarah shouted, her voice echoing off the walls. The laughter intensified, swirling around her, wrapping her in a suffocating embrace. She had to fight back. For Lily. Suddenly, with a cacophony of sound, the shadows repelled her, creating a small pathway of dim light. It flickered like a dying flame, suggesting escape. Was it an illusion, or a real chance? She took a breath, bolstered by the memory of Lily's sweet laughter. With each step she took toward the light, the shadows shrieked in frustration, their whispers morphing into a chilling chorus. "Play with us," they cried in unison, each voice more malicious than the last. "Stay with us." "No." Sarah felt fire surge through her. "You'll never have her." She didn't understand how, but she felt a connection to that fading warmth. As she moved, the shadows writhed, pulling at her clothes, attempting to drag her back. But she pushed forward, her heart thundering as the light pulsed brighter, a beacon slicing through the oppressive darkness. Then, just as hope surged anew, a scream shattered the air. It wasn't just an echo, it was Lily's voice, piercing and desperate. "Mommy! Help me! No!" Sarah collapsed back, trying to reach into the depths where the sound came from. "Lily!" The shadows recoiled slightly, the tension thick enough to strangle her voice. The dark shapes shifted and twisted, revealing glimpses of twisted faces and gnashing teeth. The cold seeped deeper into her bones as dreadful understanding dawned. They were feeding off her fear, and every moment she faltered, her daughter slipped further away. The window behind her trembled violently, as if something was pressing against it from the other side, desperate to get in or to get out. "Help us!" A childlike voice whispered from within the darkness, melding with the wails of torment surrounding Sarah. In that fragment of time suspended in absolute dread, the all-consuming question echoed in her mind: how far was she willing to go to save her daughter from this haunting nightmare? Just then, the door creaked open on its own, a portal to the unknown beckoning her with a sinister promise. What would await her beyond that threshold? What if that doorway held the answers she needed, or deeper horrors than she could imagine? She hesitated for just a moment.
Then, with her heart pounding, she stepped forward into the lurking shadows.
The silence thickened.
Something unseen watched her as the door slowly closed behind her. The air inside the doorway was stale, heavy with a weight that pressed on her shoulders. Shadows flickered around her, wrapping like cold fingers against her skin. She could barely see, but she could feel the pulse of something alive, something ancient, thumping through the darkness surrounding her. The door creaked shut with an ominous finality, sealing her inside whatever this nightmare was.
Lily?
Her voice trembled, swallowed almost immediately by a low, mocking laughter that echoed all around. Whispers blended with the laughter, weaving a twisted tapestry of despair. "Come play," they crooned, each voice layered with a sickly sweetness that turned her stomach. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow darting quickly past her, just out of reach.
"Get back here!"
Panic shot through her veins, but the shadows only laughed louder, their glee feeding off her growing fear.
Where were they taking her?
The darkness began to shift, forming into grotesque shapes that twisted and turned. She stumbled back, tracing her fingers against the cold, damp wall, desperately searching for any trace of light, any escape. But the chilling whispers pulled her deeper, a siren song singing of lost souls.
"What do you want?"
She shouted into the void, her voice barely piercing through the swirling terror. "Your heart," a voice hissed, slithering around her like fog.
"Your fear and the girl."
They grew bolder with her dread, rushing forward in a surge, filling the room with their haunting presence.
"No!"
Sarah gasped, pushing against the wall, feeling her pulse race.
Each heartbeat echoed like a countdown in her ears, time slipping away. "I won't let you take her."
The ground trembled beneath her, and suddenly, she was standing in a scene from her nightmares, one where the shadows became figures, each one representing a twisted version of Lily, their tiny faces marred with sorrow and terror.
"Mommy!"
They cried out in unison, their voices peeling away at her sanity. "Help us!" Gritting her teeth for strength, she stepped forward, grasping the flicker of hope she still clung to.
"I'm coming."
But as she moved, the figures distorted, stretching, transforming into monstrous shapes, their cries deepening into a cacophony of horrific wails. Giant hands reached for her, coated in darkness, as she ducked and surged ahead.
Each step echoed with uncertainty, its rhythm hurried by the sudden feeling of being hunted.
She could almost hear Lily's voice within the shadows, grounded by fear yet pulsing with childlike innocence.
"Mommy! Don't leave me!"
Her heart shattered at the sound, a crystal breaking, piercing through her chest. She rounded a corner, and the atmosphere shifted, pregnant with tension. She stumbled into a small, dimly lit room. In the center stood an old, cracked mirror. Something about it felt wrong, profoundly wrong. She approached it cautiously, drawn in but wary, knowing that what lay beyond its glass may very well be the answer or the end.
Panic clawed at her throat.
"Look closer," the shadows hissed in a collective voice, their malice palpable, urging her forward, snarling like ravenous wolves. Sarah leaned in, bracing herself for whatever truth awaited her reflection.
Was it really her? Or had the darkness already taken her? Her breath caught.
What stared back was her face twisted in terror, but beyond her, in the depths of the glass, she saw her daughter Lily trapped, terror streaking her small face. At that moment, the echoing laughter resumed, swirling with the faces of the shadows, their eyes gleaming with hunger. "Join us or let her fade." The mirror began to crack, slowly fracturing with every pulse of her heartbeat.
What would she do? Would she enter the abyss to save her daughter? Or could there be another way out, one that didn't involve losing herself forever?
With the darkness thickening around her and no way to discern truth from illusion, Sarah felt the very ground beneath her shake.
The mirror shimmered, a doorway to something unimaginable. Could she risk it all for one last chance?
Before she could decide, the cracks splintered louder.
And then, without warning, the mirror shattered. Glass exploded around her in a brutal shower, shards reflecting the endless darkness, each fragment a tiny window into despair.
The floor crumbled beneath her feet, swirling as if it wanted to consume her whole. She stumbled backward, hands raised, protecting her face from the onslaught, but what she saw shattered her sanity even more than the mirror itself. In the chaos, the shadows surged, forming into grotesque faces, twisted like she had seen in her nightmares. They hovered closer, their breath cold against her skin, their eyes dark voids filled with malicious glee. "You are too late," they boomed, voices overlapping in a cacophony of contempt.
"Where's Lily?"
she screamed, panic climbing her throat like a serpent ready to strike. Here they whispered, and before she could catch her breath, a ghost-like figure drifted from the depths of the shadows, a hazy echo of her daughter. Tiny hands reached for her, but the figure flickered, disappearing into wisps, just out of Sarah's desperate grasp.
"No!" Sarah lunged, a surge of adrenaline sending her forward.
But the darkness pulsed, a living thing, pulling her in like quicksand, and she felt despair clawing at her mind.
"Join us," they hissed again, voices slithering over skin. "Embrace the darkness, only then will she be saved. She can't breathe." Frosty tendrils wrapped around her heart.
The gravity of their words pressed heavily, and her mind spun with confusion. How could entering that world, their world, possibly help her little girl?
"Let her go!"
Sarah cried, fighting against the shadows as they danced and taunted her, a macabre ballet that made her skin crawl.
But each demand only fueled their delight.
Your heart beats with fury, such sweet fear. A rush of images flooded her mind, the memories of Lily's laughter, her playful face, corridors filled with sunlight. "I'd do anything for her," Sarah whispered, her resolve teetering on the edge of collapse.
"Then show us." They taunted, the shadows swirling tighter, an echo of monstrous laughter reverberating through.
The walls began to darken and close in, suffocating her resolve with dread. Suddenly, she felt a glimmer, a warmth within her.
Lily!
It was the spark she needed to fight back against the grip of the darkness. The love for her daughter surged through her, bright and blazing.
"Get away from her!"
she shouted, the words ripping through the fear like lightning. With every syllable, the shadows flinched.
"I will not join you. I will not be your prisoner."
The room trembled, the walls shaking, shadows shattering like glass around her. They shrieked, enraged, anger rippling through their forms as she stood her ground. "Your strength is futile," they gnashed, their frames contorting in pain. But as she fought back, a light flickered behind her, a beacon amidst the darkness.
Sarah turned, squinting against the blinding glow.
There, where the mirror once stood, a portal opened, vibrant and filled with warmth, hope breaking through like dawn.
"Lily!"
she cried, the pain in her chest easing as the sound of her daughter's voice rippled through her soul.
"Mommy, I can see you."
Without hesitation, Sarah felt her feet move, guided by something greater than her fear. With every step towards the light, the shadows writhed, crashing as if they would break, but she was fueled by a mother's heart.
"Come, Lily. We can escape this together."
The ground shook violently, but she pressed forward, desperately reaching for the warmth just beyond her grasp. Inch by inch, she felt the darkness recoiling, a surreal sight as the faces twisted with fury and fear. But as the portal drew nearer, a chilling scream echoed behind her, a wailing chorus of fading shadows. Your choice will seal her fate. Bracing herself, Sarah leaped through the pulsating light. In an instant, she was transported, a rush of air around her as she landed hard on her knees. The heaviness of the shadows lingered on her skin, the whispers snaking into her mind like tendrils. Sarah looked up, breathless, a foreboding sense returning. Had she really escaped? Desperation echoed in her heart as she called.
"Out, Lily!" Silence answered.
In the stillness of her surroundings, she felt a dark presence creeping back, shadows creeping in from the edges, slowly rekindling their grasp.
"Mommy!"
The voice pierced her, but it sounded far away, muffled like a distant memory. The realization crept in, like ice creeping through her veins, she had only escaped the darkness temporarily. The hunt was far from over. And deep within the shadows, something sinister was waiting, ready to unveil a new horror. What next awaited her as she searched for her daughter in this new reality? Sarah scrambled to her feet, panic igniting in her chest. The walls of the new space felt like they were closing in, warped and flickering with shadows. Her breath came in shallow gasps.
"Lily?"
she called again, her voice quivering as it resonated in the eerie silence. She felt small, adrift in a sea of darkness threatening to swallow her whole. The floor was cold beneath her bare feet, an uncomfortable reminder of her vulnerability. Shadows danced across her vision, gliding with a sinister grace, nudging at her sanity. Had she truly escaped, or was this simply a deeper prison? She turned in frantic circles, the unsettling quiet swallowing her heart.
Mommy!
Came the muffled plea again, echoing from somewhere within the oppressive gloom.
It sounded so close.
Sarah's resolve stiffened. She would find Lily. She had to. Each step was a chore, pulling at her like the weight of the world. What if the shadows returned? What if she was lured back into their grasp? But she couldn't linger on the fear. She needed to move.
Lily!
She shouted, frustration bubbling up. She rushed forward, almost colliding with an unseen barrier. A chill swept through her, crawling across her skin like ice. She squinted into the darkness, heart pounding. Then a flicker of movement caught her eye. Shape shifted and twirled just beyond her reach, squirming in joy at her torment.
Come play with us!
They taunted, a chorus of devilish glee ringing out, filling her ears, clawing at her mind. The twisted faces emerged from the dark, their mouths stretching into grotesque smiles.
Leave me alone!
She shouted, clenching her fists.
A small part of her felt vulnerable.
They were toying with her with newfound determination. She pushed forward, a scream still howling in her ears. The shadows shrieked in anger.
You shouldn't have come here!
They roared, their voices like nails scraping across metal. Sarah dodged, running toward the sound of Lily's cry. The darkness clawed at her legs, wrapping around her ankles. She felt her strength waning, doubt creeping in. Had it been a mistake to leap into the light? With desperation fueling her, Sarah stumbled into an abandoned room, its walls lined with fading photographs of frightened faces.
The air thickened, charged with a sense of foreboding. Something sinister lurked, hiding in the corners, watching her, hungry. Mommy!
The call was clearer now, almost tangible. She followed it, breathless, nearly sobbing with relief. Just then, a loud crash echoed, followed by the soft sound of shuffling feet. A figure emerged, shrouded in shadows, blocking her path to Lily. You've disturbed us, it hissed, voice low and menacing. Panic clutched her throat tight, fear driving her to the edge.
I just want my daughter,
she pleaded, stepping backward instinctively. The figure moved closer, the shadows swirling around it, revealing a face twisted with malice, eyes glittering with hunger for despair. Your daughter is ours now, the creature sneered, as if relishing in her hopelessness.
She belongs to the darkness, just as you will.
Sarah's heart raced. She was losing grip.
No! I won't let you take her.
The words burst from her, igniting fire in her veins. The floor trembled beneath her, the weight of the shadows intensifying. Such defiance will cost you dearly, it growled, reaching out with elongated fingers that dripped darkness, breath quickening. Sarah glanced back toward the direction of Lily's voice, now a faint whisper.
The room felt thin, a fragile envelope just waiting to burst.
She felt time stretching, each moment a blur of dread. She had to make a choice, fight or give in. Suddenly, a loud bang resounded from the far wall as a beam of light broke through, illuminating the space and revealing a flicker of hope. The figure recoiled, hissing at the intrusion.
Mommy! Came Lily's voice, this time more distinct, echoing off the walls like a siren. Hold on, Lily. I'm coming. Sarah shouted, heart pounding in rhythm with her fierce determination.
With the glowing light pulsing, illuminating the shadows, Sarah dashed toward the sound, her soul
igniting with desperation.
But could she reach her daughter before the darkness pulled her back? A desperate bid for survival led her straight toward the beam, the shadows howling in rage behind her. But Lily's voice twisted with urgency, melding with the dark ambience.
Mommy, hurry! Would she make it?
As the shadows surged, a sense of dread washed over her. The haunting presence of despair had not been quelled, only stalled. Just when the light seemed within reach, the ground shook violently, and the walls trembled ominously. Your fate is sealed, a voice hissed, cruel and cold, erupting around her. As the shadows lurched forward, eyes filled with a hunger that felt all too familiar, Sarah couldn't shake the fear that the true horror was yet to come. What horrors lay beyond the light?
And would she ever see Lily again?
The light from the beam flickered, illuminating the room in sporadic bursts, creating a strobe of hope and dread. Sarah surged forward, propelled by the sound of her daughter's voice, a sweet melody lost in a cacophony of chaos. But as she neared the radiant glow, the shadows grew ravenous, clawing at her feet like wild animals desperate for their prey.
"Mommy!"
Lily's voice screamed, drawing Sarah closer to the light. But with each step, the darkness surged, a relentless tide washing over her resolve. She felt fingers brush her ankles, cold and clammy, pulling her back, inviting her into the abyss.
"Lily!"
Sarah cried, desperation swelling as she fought against the unseen forces. Her heart pounded against her ribs, a percussion of fear that made her limbs heavier. The beam wavered, and with it, her hope started to dim. Ahead, the figure lurked, its eyes gleaming with a sinister hunger.
"You can't escape," it promised, voice dripping with malice. "Your daughter is ours. You are trapped, just as all the others before you."
But the shadows behind her, those twisted forms filled with predatory glee, distracted her momentarily like a swarm of angry wasps. They were a chorus of whispers, tantalizing and threatening all at once.
"Come play with us forever, get away from me!"
Sarah snapped, using every ounce of strength she could muster. She charged at the light, teeth gritted, the remaining photographs lining the walls watching her with hollow eyes. Shadows darted, screeching in frustration at her defiance. Then, as if struck by a sudden force, the ground bucked beneath her, sending her crashing to the cold stone floor. The light above flickered violently, casting monstrous shadows that danced wildly.
The air thickened like impending doom, chilling her core. "Mommy!" That voice. It was both a plea and a warning, echoing off the walls like a siren song.
Lily's cry wasn't just calling, it was pulling her closer, anchoring her in the storm of madness. Sarah lunged to her feet, renewing her charge. The shadow shrieked bitterly, a discordant symphony of rage unleashing upon her. Claws raked at her flesh, but she wouldn't be deterred. She could see Lily now, a faint outline standing just past the luminous barrier. Her heart screamed for her little girl, and she began to run, but a powerful grip seized her shoulder. She froze, dread slithering down her spine. "You don't understand," hissed the sinister figure, malice coating every word. "You're not strong enough to cross the threshold." The words sank into her, feeding the darkness quickening around her.
"You need to embrace it, to let go." Suddenly, the light flickered out, plunging the room into a deep, suffocating blackness.
A scream clawed its way up her throat, stifled by the overwhelming presence of despair.
"No, no, no!" It echoed in her mind like a death knell. In that moment, Sarah teetered on the edge of hopelessness.
But just as panic surged, she remembered Lily. A burning instinct ignited within her.
"No! I will not lose her."
She twisted free from the grip, pushing against the heaviness. The room twisted with confusion as she sprinted, relying on the tremor of her daughter's voice to guide her.
"I'm coming!"
She yelled, trusting her gut, each step a declaration of her love that shattered the veil of darkness. But something shifted in the shadows, a sharpness laced with malice as the laughter returned, dark and haunting.
"You think you can save her?" came the chilling chorus, the hollow laughter spilling out.
"You will join the countless souls that have fallen before." Just when Sarah thought her heart could break no further, a blinding light erupted from the floor. It blinded her, a stark contrast to the deep grasp of shadows enveloping her.
She pushed onward, responding to the warmth like a moth to flame. "Mommy!"
The cry resonated with urgency, wrapping around her like a lifeline. A barrier emerged, shimmering against the dark.
Was this the exit?
Was Lily truly there? Then a blinding flash cracked through the thick atmosphere.
Shadows shrieked in fury, scrambling backward.
"You will pay for this!"
They howled as the darkness writhed in desperation.
Sarah felt the heat of the light, how it burned with promise. In that instant, she couldn't help but think of what lay just beyond it. Could this truly be the escape she desperately sought? And just as she was about to plunge into the radiance, a cold whisper slithered into her ear, "You'll regret it, everything is not what it seems." As she hesitated, caught in the liminal space between hope and dread, the shadows recoiled, swirling with intent. What price would she pay to save her daughter? Sarah took a deep breath, her heart pounding fiercely against her ribs. The shadows loomed around her, whispering promises laced with malice, but they couldn't drown the sheer force of her love for Lily. "I won't let you have her," she shouted, the declaration echoing defiantly in the darkness. Each word felt sacred, a protective shield against the despair that threatened to engulf her. The flicker of light pulsed warmly, inviting her like a distant sun. And in that moment, Sarah saw not just Lilia's figure but the innocence shimmering behind her frightened eyes. "Mommy, please." The child's voice hitched, the urgency lacing her plea. That tugged at Sarah's core. How could she turn back now? "Hold on, Lily. I'm coming." Shattering the silence, Sarah surged forward. The shadows shrieked as she passed, grasping at her, their cold fingers clawing desperately for her retreating form. The pain made her stumble, but she pressed on, adrenaline fueling her with every heartbeat. When she reached the light, it finally exploded within her grasp, washing away the darkness that draped around her like a heavy fog. "No! She is mine!" The sinister figure hissed, voice rattling and fading as the warmth enveloped Sarah. Then everything fell silent for the briefest moment. Sarah blinked, the glowing light casting away the veil of shadows. She looked around, feeling the cool floor beneath her knees. Relief washed over her as the warmth ignited hope in her chest. "Lily!" she cried, eyes scanning the radiant expanse. The shadows that had haunted her were gone, replaced by a vibrant glow that filled her with a sense of calm and safety. And there a tiny figure emerged from the illumination, a shadow of gray against the brilliance, but not as twisted or threatening. The details sharpened, and a familiar laugh rang in the air. Sarah's heart soared. "Mommy!" Lily ran toward her, arms stretching wide, innocence radiating from her small form. Sarah swept her daughter into her embrace, warmth flooding through her like a summer sun breaking through winter clouds. "Thank God!" Sarah breathed, holding Lily tightly, tears streaming down her face. Everything felt right for the first time in so long. But then a pulse of darkness slithered behind them, echoing on the edges of the light, soft but chilling. "Your escape is only temporary," the deep voice whispered from the shadows, wrapping around them like a chill wind. "No!" Sarah shouted defiantly, turning to face the encroaching darkness. "You won't take us. You don't belong here." In that moment, something shifted. The air hummed, charged with power. Her love ignited a light that pushed back against the shadows, a fierce aura that mingled with her desperate cries. Every childless laughter from the memories of lost souls weaved into her voice, uniting in an echoing battle cry for those trapped before her. The shadows writhed, twisting in pain as the warmth of the pure love and determination harnessed by Sarah surged through the chamber. The once feared figures began to dissolve, their essence shattering into wisps of smoke. "No!" they screeched, their voices growing weaker, unraveling in the fierce tide of Sarah's will. Sarah held Lily tight, feeling the strength of a mother's love banishing the darkness. Together, they stepped forward, hand in hand, illuminated by the swirling light around them. With every step, they moved closer to freedom, uniting their strength against the horrors that dared rage against them. Finally, they broke free. With a final burst of brilliance, the remnants of dark forms swirled away, leaving nothing but whispers lost to the wind. Sarah and Lily stumbled into a new realm, a vibrant garden where sunflowers blossomed tall, colors brighter than anything seen before, the air sweet with the scent of hope. Trembling with relief, Sarah knelt beside Lily, holding her little face in her hands. "Are you okay?" she whispered, searching her daughter's eyes. "I missed you so much, Mommy," Lily replied, her smile bright against the lush background. "Rachel was scary. But we did it together." With a profound weight lifted, Sarah hugged her close, soaking in the moment. They had escaped. They were together again. They stood at the entrance of their own new beginning, the darkness behind them now just a distant echo. "Let us go home," Sarah whispered, voice thick with emotion, turning back toward the path that led them away from the horrors. And as they walked hand in hand, laughter floated around them, once again filled with joy and echo of what was lost. A future bright with promise lay ahead, ready to be lived without fear. Thank you for joining Sarah and Lily on this journey through dread and despair. If you've enjoyed this intense tale, you need to subscribe now to not miss out on the next mind-blowing stories. Smash that like button now and let us feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about what happens next. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support makes all the difference. Show your love and let us keep the stories coming.